same-sex marriage. Now you're for it. You defended President Obama's immigration policies. Now you say they're too harsh. You supported his trade deal dozens of times. You even called it the gold standard. Now, suddenly, last week, you're against it. Will you say anything to get elected?
Well, actually, I have been very consistent over the course of my entire life. I have always fought for the same values and principles.
And for those of you who don't know, we're an anti-establishment Facebook group. Obviously that's the Republicans, but gee, we've come to find out that there's an establishment wing of the Democratic Party, huh? And it includes just about everybody in Congress, in the House and the Senate, huh? Anyway, so we're against that. You know, we're still trying to get people like Bernie in, and I'll explain to you how. This is a post by Brian Kearney. It says, floundering DNC chair, new position proves non-committal to victory. The recently elected DNC chair claimed the position was a full-time job. Now he has a side gig. Okay, and so Brian Kearney says, so Tom Perez calls DNC chair a full-time job, gets elected, does nothing, and gets a second job. So he's just reiterating. And being the group that we are, of course, you get comments like, that's the DNC for you. Jacqueline Moyerman says the party is a mess, and he has as much charisma as Pence. Agree taking in a teaching job at Brown requires preparation and time is essential to be. I mean, what does this say about establishment Democrats? I mean, just think for a second. What do Republicans do? They put people in the job who will dismantle the job, the department or whatever, right? And that's exactly what Tom Perez is all about. They just stick him in there, tell him basically do nothing except for keep the establishment dough flowing in and whatever, you know, little things like that. Basically, you don't have to do anything. You can go get you another job, make some money. But, I mean, what I'm saying is the DNC's real job would be to promote democratic values, like, you know, climate change and helping the working people, helping the people, you know, get what they expect out of government when they promoting all of our platform. And make no doubt about it, like if you go to Bernie's platform or to one of my previous episodes where I talked about the platform that Democratic Party headquarters is adopting from Justice Democrats. That's what the DNC's job is to do, is to promote that and to promote candidates that back that, because it's overwhelmingly clear that the majority of voters in the members of the Democratic Party, or the ones that would be members if they'd stop jacking us around. I mean, that's all the Green Party members are, is disgruntled real Democrats. and all these other people. They're just disgruntled Democrats. I mean, there's only two parties in the near future, people. It's the Democrats and the Republicans. Now, I'm not saying don't work on alternatives, don't work on third parties and all that. Absolutely do, so that maybe at some point we can pull the carpet out from underneath them. I'm all for that. I'll be the first one to jump on the bandwagon. But in the meantime, let's work on getting all those people to work with us in overthrowing these establishment Dems and getting them, at the very least, docile, but probably just running the vast majority of their leaders, like all the people in Congress, definitely need to run progressives against them and get them all out. Definitely need to run people who swear they won't take a dime, won't be bribed. I talk about, I spend a lot of time talking to people on Facebook about contracting, or and there's a group, Progressive or Bust, and I forget what else they are, that's picked up my idea. I told them when I talked to them, I just wish somebody would, take my ideas and run with them. Well, that's one of them, and it was brand new when I came up with it, so fairly confident that I was the one who started the idea of contracting candidates. So I'll talk about that a little later. So Jacqueline Moyerman basically is talking about why Democrats are floundering. She says, this is why Dems appear as pathetic as GOP, just more passive, aggressive than overtly. How Dems allow this is a signal of their lack of passion, zest. Joe Williams says, that's why I opposed his appointment. We all opposed his appointment. What was the guy's name that we were backing? Was it the guy from Florida or someone? I forget. Anyway, we had our guy, right? We were working on it. And I say, fuck the DNC. We're going to ditch them. And we are. It's going to be really hard because they're the formal system for the Democratic Party. But that doesn't mean that they have legal control over the Democratic Party. They don't. They're just a corporation. So we can deformalize them. I guess that's what I'll say. Sander Yoshimoto says he did all he needed to do, making sure a progressive didn't end up on that chair. So you get Joe Williams saying good luck with that, like he doesn't believe that we can overthrow establishment Dems, the DNC. I say we can. I can't is not a part of the Democratic Party headquarters vocabulary. And then finally I have to say, don't fret, LOL. Progressive candidates are exploding onto the scene, and we're going to win. After we win, we will reform the Dem Party and turn the tables on them, and that's exactly what I want to do. I want to put progressives up against, because we'll not only beat establishment Democrats, but we'll be Republicans where they can't. We will make it impossible for conservatives and moderates to win as Dems. They'll get to feel what it's like to be ditched by their own party. Bye-bye. God, that's my dream, huh? To just watch them all sit on the sidelines going, oh, what happened? So I'll show you a few ways that I'm working on doing this. Okay, obviously Democratic Party headquarters is the home of the reboot. And the reboot is where we're going to re-register every Democrat. And you're going to have to support the platform to a certain extent, whatever that turns out to be. And the people who join the party first, obviously, are going to be the ones who get to fight over the platform. So if you're not a member, you won't get to fight over the platform. But that platform is going to be a litmus test, because you're going to have to accept the platform even if there's some things in that you don't agree with. I mean, there's things in it that I don't agree with. I don't agree with immigration policy in the platform, but you know what? I mean, at least I'm a real Democrat. I'm willing to try it and see how it goes. If it turns out we end up in a civil war with the Mexican Americans because they all pile in and then turn on us, well, then I'll tell you I was right, you know. By that time, and I don't know. Anyway, now I'm getting crazy. I didn't mean that literally. I'm just making a point that I don't really agree with every single thing in the platform. I agree with like 99% of it. Immigration may be the one place, and of course there's little details, but you know what? As a member, I'm going to be able to get on, because we're going to argue it out in the group. We're going to argue, we're going to post on everything, just like we do now, except for it's going to count, because we're going to set up a mechanism for voting after we have, it's going to be our own little Congress. We're going to debate, and we're going to make decisions, we're going to vote on it, and that's how we'll make decisions. Okay, now that's a long ways away. First, what I want to do is this, and that is Democratic Party headquarters reboot candidates. And this is where we will pick and vet our candidates, make sure that they don't take bribes if they're and where we'll make the money to hire people to vet them, as in actually investigate these people and stay on their asses to make sure they don't take bribes, is here in, well, it's not here. Sorry, let me do this. Let me open up this one. This is reboot candidates, and we'll discuss it in just a second. And obviously this is where we're going to put up who we think are good candidates, and then vet them and argue over them and vote on them and all kinds of stuff. Okay, but the way we're going to fund it is through, and by the way, if you guys can come up with some money to help me, because all this is a job. You know, if I'm going to do this 5 days a week for y'all, you need to fork up some cash. Just to help me out. I mean, I just need money for, I don't know. I mean, I'm running this on a shoestring, as you can tell. I'm not doing anything crazy. But I'd appreciate any help that I could get. You know, any of you have... I don't expect people like me, who don't have any money, to give. But if some of you out there do have money, give it through this place I'm about to show you. And that is... the Reboot Army. Okay, the Reboot Army. This is going to be where we actually raise money and put it to work. Now, I'm not accepting any money for the Reboot Army. The Reboot Army, I've got my address on here. Well, I thought I had my address on here. I don't see it on here anymore. Oh, that's a... Is there not a pinned post yet? And nobody's even joined this yet. I mean, this is all brand new. Anyway, I'll make sure that you have a way to donate to me for doing Democratic Party headquarters news. But this is the more important one. I mean, if I get some money for doing this show, great. If I don't, I'll live. Don't worry about me. But this is important, because what I'm doing with this is we pay our soldiers $15 an hour to canvass for reboot candidates. Tired of wearing your feet out for free? How about doing it for minimum wage instead, our minimum wage? We're raising money to pay people to get out there and promote our anti-establishment candidates. Need a job? And some of them aren't Democrats. Got some Green Party people and some I mean, this is a way, because it doesn't really matter, you know. I mean, yeah, I'm all about the reboot. This group is all about the reboot. But the important thing is to get like-minded people, progressives, no matter what party they're in control. Then we can worry about whether we run under a Democratic Party banner, whether we figure out how to take over the Democratic Party and take it back, because we will. If we just beat them based on philosophy, on platform, then that can only be good for anti-establishment Democrats. So I don't care who they are, but they have to not take bribes, and that's the main thing, is that they don't take bribes. They don't take any money from, and this is where we will fund their candidacy. Now, they're all probably taking in money to help themselves, but we're going to take in money for everybody that's on here and stays on here, that doesn't get removed. Not here. Over here. In reboot candidates. And we're going to use that money to pay people to go around the neighborhoods and talk to people and deliver flyers with information on where they can go on Facebook and all that kind of stuff. I mean, you can kind of guess what it's going to be like. And I'm going to run it, and I'm not going to take any money for running it. I'll handle it. That part will be free. Everybody else will get paid $15 an hour. Now, if I go out and stomp around my neighborhood, I'm going to get paid $15 an hour too. Or if I hire people and I do all the printing, etc. I mean, that's how people are going to make money off of this, if they actually do the work. And obviously there'll be management, and then there'll be people who do the grunt work. And everybody will get paid the same thing. It's not a capitalist system here. Okay, so the Reboot Army, that's where we're going to, and if you come to here, you can click on this and we'll talk about it. And yeah, there's my address right there. If you want to contribute to the show, or you want to contribute to the Reboot Army, if you contribute to the Reboot Army, just make your check out to the Reboot Army, because I'm setting up a non-profit at the bank, and that's the name I'm going to put it in. Now, on the other hand, if you detecting audio problems, never seen that before. Oh, I unplugged it because I just installed a DVD drive. Okay, so I don't have sound right now. So, and then if you want to donate to the show, just make your check out to me, because obviously that's going to be for me. Okay, so you're not going to be able to hear this right now. You will shortly, though. The next time I turn this off. Okay, so that's like the whole system. Got the Reboot Army, and then we can back out to Reboot Candidates. And in Reboot Candidates, I show you how to post, and then I'll only approve it if it's after I vet it a little bit. At least I have to at least have a look at the people, and then it won't stay up if we find out something real bad about, like that they're taking money from Monsanto or something. Like I okayed this one the other day, and this is a new guy. He says, progressive Democratic candidate for governor of New Mexico, Peter Benedictus? Peter Benedictus. That's a hard name to say. We'll just call him Dr. Benny, huh? Okay, anyway, advocates 5 major policy initiatives which he believes will significantly help everyday New Mexicans. Healthcare for all New Mexicans. Well, you're on the right path there. Early childhood education statewide, so preschool, huh, for kids. Living, because everybody's doing it right now, and you have to be rich to do it. That's, I can see where he's coming from. Oh, $15 an hour living wage, just like the Reboot. Well, that's a tiny little bug. It almost looks like it's just part of the program. Anyway, creating a public state bank, and yes, a great idea, and Bernie has been advocating that with the post office. Moving towards 100% renewable energy, absolutely. See, I don't even care if there is global warming. I still hate pollution, and you know, that's the best we can do is burn stuff, you know, gasoline and burn stuff. We're always having to burn stuff. So visit WW People's First. So this guy sounds great. You know, that's kind of how I vet them anyway, is I let them post their stuff, and I can look at that. Now I'm gonna have to check and make sure that he's not taking money from enemies of those same, like, 5 points. Like, if it turns out that he's taking a whole bunch of money from Blue Cross Blue Shield, well, then we have a problem, right? Houston, we have a problem. Alright, so posting, I really like this girl. She's really nice. She's running for, she has an independent, for the state of Michigan, for Senate. And, I can see why she doesn't want to run as a Democrat. I mean, we got real problems here. But I'm not going to let them take my party or my party name away from me. You know, fuck them. That's bullshit, man. This is my party. And it's time to... I mean, how much do we have to pay for what they... what they did for us? It's more like what they did to us. Yeah, so we won in 92 in 8 years, and then we won in 2008 for another 8 years, but at what price? And if you don't understand that, then you need to join my group, and you'll see what's going on there. So yeah, here's... So in the pinned post, there isn't, oh, we're in, okay, so you won't find a place. And I was looking, I saw this about Reboot Army, and forgot which. I was thinking when I was back in Reboot Army. You know, having all these tabs open and everything can be confusing. So here's Kimberly Ellis, and I posted her. I thought she was excellent, and I still do. So she's a black girl. For California Democratic Party chair. And I've already looked at all these, but she's for healthcare, labor, immigration, LGBTQ, civil rights. I mean, these people, I've already been through all of them, and they're all pretty much progressive candidates not taking money. You know who she is, huh? These jackasses want, the establishment wants Kamala. We want Nina. Go Nina. Look at her, you can just tell by looking at her face. She's exactly what we're about. And of course I'm always promoting Kashama Sawan. She's awesome. And this guy, San Francisco, my just outside of my hometown where I grew up. So Stephen Jaffe for Congress, wants to be a congressman, and he's awesome. And he said when he was talking to somebody that if you call his office that he'll pick it up. So I called him. Sure enough, he picked it up, and I said the only thing you need to be in Democratic Party headquarters reboot candidate is you can't take money. You can't be involved with the DNC and establishment Democrats. And he was like, they haven't even called me yet. So he sounded awesome though. I was trying to figure out if you have to like sign up with the DNC in order to run. Well, apparently not. I mean, he's running, and he's done everything he has to do to run for Senate. And he said he hasn't even heard from them yet. So apparently you don't have to get involved with the DNC to run. So that's all the reboot candidates I have so far. And when there's more, I'll talk about them, and every once in a while I'll promote them in here and on our news, so that you can see what there's nobody more transparent than me and this news show. I mean, I'm not gonna hide anything from you. I'm not out to get rich. I mean, I am, but not doing this. I'd like to make money in music, and I have a couple of good businesses that I like to do. But this is not about money, because that's kind of the spirit of what it's all about, right? And at the same time, I'm doing this reboot army because for 20 years, I stomped around the neighborhood never getting paid a dime, while assholes like Clinton and Obama, I mean, they just got richer and richer. And I never got a dime. And so I'm promoting Reboot Army because I think that the people who stomp around the neighborhoods like I did, I never had much money, and I don't think most of them do. So unless they say, look, I want to volunteer, I don't want your money, we're going to pay them. And that girl in here, I talked to her, what's her name, this one, and she was like, yeah, I think that's just a great idea. So I mean, I'm not the only one who thinks Reboot Army is awesome. Now you guys just need to fund me, because obviously I'm going to have to pay people, because that's what I've said. So, if you could raise, I don't know how much money you raised for Bernie. You put your money in here, all the people who put all that money into all those candidates, and every single bit of it will go to this $15 an hour. And obviously it's a win-win, right? I mean, you're going to be giving people money who no doubt need it. You're going to be promoting. And here's the thing. This is the other reason that I started the Reboot Army. I firmly believe that it will have a much better return on investment than television or radio or even the internet, because it's worked before. Acorn was so much of a threat that they crushed it, and Acorn was stupid. I mean, they took money, they were government funded, and when they took away the government funding based on lies, it killed them. I'm not going to do that. You're going to give your money to me. I'm going to be the one who handles the money, and if I steal, there's my address right there. You can come over and shoot me. I'm that confident that I won't be tempted. Okay. So yeah, I will make sure that the Republicans can't just walk in and pull the rug out from underneath us, okay? I know I've used that term twice. I'm not going to be able to use it again. So, come on, people. You got to admit, this is, like, awesome. I mean, I don't think I've left a stone unturned. I think I've got it all figured out. And that's just about the time you get into the reality of it and find out, well, if ever there was a man that you wanted to be there when you find out the reality and deal with it and make sure that bad things don't happen, well, I'm your guy. I will make sure that we get over any fences that pop up in our way.
Do you think New York State should recognize gay marriage?
No.
No. Okay.
I believe that marriage is not just a bond, but a sacred bond between a man and a woman.
I have not supported same-sex marriage. I've supported civil partnerships and contractual relationships.
I support marriage for lesbian and gay couples. I support it personally and as a matter of policy and law.
So you're saying your opinion on gay marriage changed, or you changed your mind?
I have to say, I think you are being very persistent, but you are playing with my words and playing with what is such an
I'm just trying to clarify
issue.
So I can understand.
No, I don't think you are trying to clarify. I think you're trying to say that, I used to be opposed and now I'm in favor and I did it for political reasons, and that's just flat wrong. So let me just state what I feel like you are implying and repudiate it. I have a strong record. I have a great commitment to this issue, and I am proud of what I've done and the progress we're making.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I just want to clarify what I was saying. No, I was saying that you maybe really believe this all along, but, believe in gay marriage all along, but felt for political reasons America wasn't ready yet and you couldn't say it. That's what I was thinking.
No, that is not true.
It really is great how long you've supported gay marriage.
Yes.
I could have supported it sooner. Well, you did it pretty soon. Could have been sooner. Fair point.
The Young Turks are dead. Yep. It's definitely over for them. So I have here the last show of theirs I'll ever watch.
And Jared Jackson normally sits in here, but he actually wrote in and on the Kamala Harris story. And he says, if we progressives fight for politicians to back progressive ideals and finally get one to, then respond by trying to push them away by calling them frauds and con artists, some of us have to wonder if you actually support progressive ideals. You can hold them accountable to follow through without bashing them for finally coming our way. Are we fighting for progress or to simply complain? Our desire to breathe fire is useless when we start setting fires to our own houses. Don't lose sight. Continue to fight, not sabotage. Okay. God bless Cher. That's a solid-ass opinion. Okay.
God bless. This motherfucker's gone to the other side. It's pure and simple, right? I mean, now he's gonna use his platform and his $20 million that he got from the wrong people to try and tell us what to think about Kamala Harris. The pathetic thing is they think we're not going to notice that they're throwing one after another of their lackeys at us in the hope that they might get one to stick. Like, oh, we're not going to bother to check and make sure where they get their money from, right? So, moving on. I posted this, I guess, to my timeline. It says, hey TYT, stop begging. I've turned off all your notifications. Go hang out with Rachel Maddow. You both serve the evil master now. And you can see I changed our banner and our name, because I'm done with TYT. I'm done with the Young Turks altogether, all of their stuff, except for Justice Democrats and Jimmy Dore and people like that. And we'll see what we can do to work with them, because they're obviously out in the cold now.
New Hampshire, you told the crowd you, quote, take a backseat to no one when it comes to progressive values.
I take a backseat to no one when you look at my record and standing up and fighting for progressive values.
Last month in Ohio, you said you plead guilty to, quote, being kind of moderate and center. Do you change your political identity based on who you're talking to?
No, I think that, like most people that I know, I have a range of views, but they are rooted in my values and my experience.
You know, I get accused of being kind of moderate and center. I plead guilty.
Just for the record, are you a progressive or are you a moderate?
I'm a progressive.
People ask me over and over and over again, well, what can we do, right? Because there doesn't seem to be like a lot of progress sometimes, even though there is. But it's all kind of, I mean, it's certainly not covered in the mainstream media. So I'm starting this new thing. I talked about it a little bit. It might have made it into my last episode. But, and no, it doesn't really have anything to do with that right there. But, you know, so let me go to, okay, I've talked about reboot candidates and stuff like that, and I'm adding reboot candidates in all the time. And I'll talk about that in a minute, but this is the new thing. And yeah, I'm teasing you. This is what I'm going to do. I've had this idea for a long, long time, trying to figure out what to do about it. And I'm going to have to break my own rule to do it, and that is raise money. But I will administer it. I will not accept a dime of the money that comes in. I may spend some of the money. Well, I'll spend all of it. But what I will spend it on, 100%. I will even cover all my own costs in this thing. So, I mean, if there's some huge cost that I can't deal with, I'll let you guys know. And so it'll be completely transparent. But here's what the money's going to go to. Boots on the ground. I'm going to pay $15 an hour. Okay, well, I'm not going to pay for doing all the, so the money will also go to making up flyers. But I'm going to put boots on the ground, delivering flyers and going door to door. So basically all my life I've been saying to myself, well, like, I quit going door to door and delivering flyers. It just seemed like, you know, why don't they pay these people? And even Bernie, you know, all volunteers. Well, where's that millions and millions of dollars that you're getting going to? Is it being wasted on, I mean, I've never seen a Bernie ad on TV, but I don't really watch TV. But is it being, because I swear to God, I've had this feeling for a long time, and I'm almost positive it's just real solid. And it is that you could spend that money having people deliver flyers and go to door and get to more people, and in a better way, a more efficient and productive way, effective way. than whatever he's doing. I mean, okay, it's great you get 25,000 people into a stadium and stuff, and I say continue to do that, Bernie. You know, I'm all for it, but I did a lot of walking and a lot of dropping leaflets and delivering signs and all that kind of stuff for, God, Obama and Bernie. And I say, I'm going to start this thing. It's a new movement, and people are going to be paid to drop leaflets and go door to door instead of being volunteers. So that's what I'm going to do. Now, I have a new candidate, and let's just listen. We'll go back to that. I was listening to Jimmy Dore. The other side of that, the boots on the ground are supporting reboot candidates. So they're going to be delivering and supporting these people in wherever. And again, I will not take in one dime for myself, and I will administer it. So the administration of this thing will be absolutely 100% free, unless I have to hire somebody to help me, like in the administration. But obviously I'm going to have to spend money on laser printers, and these are black and white cheap laser printers. This is how I've been doing it myself for years. You get these laser printers, they can massively print out. You fold them up, trifold them yourself, and or maybe you get a trifolder, and you start walking, and you deliver information that gives people information on how to find us on the internet, how to find our candidates on the internet, and things like that. And we will use the money to do that all over the country. We'll become the Reboot Army. That's what I'll call it. Democratic Party headquarters. I guess I'm going to start leaving out Democratic Party headquarters. We'll just start calling it the Reboot. So Reboot, the Reboot Army. And we'll start doing that. I thought it was a great idea for, I don't know, 10 or 20 years. I mean, you lose track after a while exactly when you came up with an idea. But I know for years I've been saying, why not pay people $15 an hour, minimum wage, or minimum wage? Obviously there's going to have to be somebody to monitor and make sure that they're actually delivering the flyers and doing their job. I mean, that's part of any kind of operation, right? You don't just trust people, no matter how trustworthy they are. Just keep an eye on things. Otherwise, anyway, I'm not going to try and prove to you that I have my business degree from one of the top 10 business schools in the United States at the time. University of St. Thomas Cameron Business School was written up, so there's my resume. Plus, there's a lot of other business I've been involved with. So, just going to tell you about Reboot candidate that I'm adding in. So this is Kimberly Ellis, a black girl. And I don't know much about her. Here, let's hear a little bit about her.
It's just gonna happen. It's gonna happen no matter what. We can make it we can just like seamlessly move into that position, or we could start to take out some of these motherfuckers, because that's how I feel about it. Like, it's every year we just need to keep running. Like, we just got them.
And this girl's cool. I don't know who she is, but if she's running on, she'll be at one of ours.
I don't think Eric Bauman knew that he was going to be, he's not going to be able to sit through this. People, if you keep putting pressure on Eric Bauman, make it so it's difficult for him to go outside without being shouted out that he doesn't care about people, that he only cares about pharmaceuticals. That's what we have to do. You know, if you're not
So, you know, if we can raise millions of dollars for Bernie Sanders, why can't we raise millions of dollars to pay these volunteers? She's talking about volunteers right here, sending them, getting people to voluntarily go and yell at people and go to their offices and complain and maybe even call in. Why can't we pay those people? I mean, isn't there enough dignity in what they're doing that we ought to be paying them? I mean, we live in a capitalist system, so we have to fight fire with fire. Let's pay people. So that's what I'm going to be all about in this movement that I'm talking about.
Tom Perez, tell him. Show up at the DNC. Talk about the People's Platform. I mean, they have a duty to us. And so if they're going to play these games, we have to let them know that they can't get away with it. You know, it's an abusive relationship. You have to literally say, no more. No more.
I agree. Of course, I agree with you. The only problem is that, you know, they did show up in California, and the chairman of the party told them to shut the fuck up and get out.
Right.
And then they installed the pharmaceutical lobbyist as the chairman of the party. That's the Democrats doing that. That's the goddamn Democrats. So that's when that happened, I was like, I think this is a dead party. I don't think it's able or capable. Thomas Frank doesn't think it's capable of reform. He said so in his book anyway. So,
but then what's the alternative? I mean, it can't. It's not.
My theory. I had a theory.
Yeah.
My theory was before November, before the election last year, was that everybody who supported Bernie should say, I'm gonna vote for a Green New Deal. So then the Democrats would have to change. They would have to come get us. But we have most of the people who voted for Bernie decided, no, I'm going to vote because of Trump, which is the exact thing Malcolm X warned us against. They got to show you the wolf when you run towards the fox. And so we did it. So if everybody I know who agreed with a Green New Deal, which is...
Sorry, I'm wanting to say something here. And what he was talking about, I didn't mean to turn it down right then, because it's just absolutely true. It's a strategy. You know, scare people with the wolf and you chase them towards the fox. But he's going to get around to talking, one of them's going to get around to talking about Kimberly Ellis. And this is definitely one of the things you can do as far as Democratic Party headquarters, and that is to let me see if I can find it, to add people here in Democratic. If you put in Democratic Party headquarters, you'll get all of these different groups that I've created. I've created this one, and I've created Democratic Party headquarters news, which is where this news broadcast originates. And you know, in there, if once you're involved, you can put these in your favorites and you can go here. So I'm going to add her in, and you simply copy this, and sites like this will, generally speaking, have her phone numbers and stuff like that. If not, I can find a way to add them in. And so you come in here and you put, okay, and that gets it started. That gives you Kimberly Ellis for California Democratic Party chair. Now what she is, I don't know. I imagine that she's a senator, California senator or something. Or maybe not, because maybe she just got screwed out of everything, which is entirely likely. So here's her I guess, Facebook page. And you come back and you now, as far as donating money, don't worry about that now, because I haven't even set up a way for people to donate and stuff, but I will. And while I'm just going to talk about it a little bit while I'm doing this. Here's your Twitter. Okay, add her Twitter. I think if you add in their main page, Facebook, Twitter, I'll usually add in their Wikipedia entry. I didn't see it though, but I think I'll just add in this, because I say something, why you like the candidate. Well, you can just put in a post like this: California Democratic Party chair race rigged with ineligible votes, which is very interesting. So you can just add in something like this, and I think that's enough. And then, because I don't want people spamming the page with a bunch of their posts and stuff that don't really cover what this particular group is about, which is only that, so I only approve posts like this. So if you, as has happened already 3 times, if you put in posts that aren't like this, they're not nominating candidates, then I'll just not accept them. So you need to make sure they're posts like this. So there's a new post, and I'll take posts like this and I'll spread them around, put them in different groups and stuff so everybody can see what we're doing here, and I'll post them to my friends in their comments on their posts.
Never before seen video of Hillary Clinton inside the Walmart empire. She is probably one of the most investigated politicians in American history. And this morning you're going to see her in a way you've never seen her before, serving on the board of Walmart. ABC News Chief Investigative Correspondent Brian Ross is here with details on this. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning, Robin. Although she makes no mention of it in her official biography, Hillary Clinton served for 6 years on the board of Walmart, a huge retailer criticized by many for its treatment of workers and its strident opposition to unions.
Form this thing where they're just squeezing these people into a tighter and tighter place, and the rest have to be subject to either the Assad's regime, which kills thousands and thousands of them, certainly 10 to 20,000 a year. I mean, if you live under the Assad regime and you're a Sunni, you're fucked, okay? And if you live in Iraq with these Shia militias moving in on you, you're fucked. And if you live in the Kurdish areas, you're not quite as fucked, but you're still fucked. And if you live in the ISIS areas, well, the hope was that, hey, these guys will kind of put an umbrella over us and protect us. But all of a sudden, all the world has kind of gotten together and decided they're going to slaughter these people. And they're going to put them in chains in the areas that they take over. And they're going to either reform them or kill them. And this involves a lot of torture, a lot of murder. I mean, you know how groups like the SS in Germany, how they did their work. And it never works out in the end. That's why I'm saying that in the end, I mean, I don't see them killing 25 million. That's just in Syria. And then you've got how many million, I don't know, here. And then you've got how many million as refugees who are being forced back in, because as they try to get through Turkey and Europe and places, well, they're being pushed back. I mean, physically, their boats are being turned around. They're being forced to go back through the countries that they came from, and I imagine most of this is they get saddled. Countries like Turkey and Lebanon and Jordan get saddled with the refugees, and then eventually they're going to try to push them back into Afghanistan, Iraq, and Syria, where they're going to be forced to get on their knees to the people, to the Saddams. They're both Ba'athists. Bashir al-Assad, the Shia militants, and the probably, unless the Taliban win, whoever is supported by the United States in Afghanistan. I mean, that's a more realistic picture of what's going on than what you might hear about in the news. Now, of course, the question that's always asked is, well, how bad are these people? I mean, not talking about Islamic State, which is basically dead at this point. Their leaders are all dead. They've all been bombed relentlessly. The people are under the remnants of those groups, right? And they're not really effective. They're just kind of standing there waiting for one army or militia or whatever or another to come run them out and kill thousands and thousands of innocent civilians in the process. And the civilians are just like, well, they're not going to change. They're Shia, they're Sunni, they're whatever they are, right? They're not going to change because of that. And all they're going to do is pretend to support whoever moves in the hope that they won't be killed in the process. And that's why I feel sorry for them. I mean, I understand why they hate America, and they probably hate Russia, and probably hate everybody, and for sure they hate Bashir al-Assad, but they'll pretend. They'll go up and down the street praising their liberation by the Syrian army, huh? And right until they're put on their knees and a gun put up to their head to make them piss their pants right there in the middle of the street, swearing that they're allegiant, and what it just depends on the guy with the gun, if he pulls the trigger or not, you know, whether he decides this guy's, I mean, he knows he's lying, right? But he might decide that, well, I think we can trust him to just be compliant with us and not like join a militia and end up on the, because they have the same fear anybody does. You let somebody go, it's just like in Saving Private Ryan, and then they end up on the other side of the battlefield with shooting you, right? So you like life and death type thing, right? So sure, I can understand all that, but a lot of that argument has to do with which side you're on and what kind of history there is. So with Bashar al-Assad, it's always been a dictatorship. There's never been fair elections. There's no, it's basically an oppressive regime controlling everybody else in order to survive. I can understand that, but at the same time, it's more than survival. It's wealth and power, and I think you know what I'm talking about there. And it's a horrible, horrible oppression. And the same thing will be found out about the Shia in
Walmart's opposition to unions was led for decades by labor lawyer John Tate, who after his retirement proudly recalled at this company meeting in 2004 what he said was his favorite phrase.
Labor unions are nothing but blood-sucking parasites living off of the productive labor of people who work for a living.
Hillary Clinton was not present at this Walmart meeting, but Tate was relied on for years to keep unions out at Walmart, including during the 6 years from 1986 to 92, when Clinton was on the Walmart board and Tate was either an executive or a member of the board himself.
Okay, this is a little conversation I had with Patrick Walker in YTYT Sucks, previously TYT discussion, until they sold out, which is a perfect example of an implied contract. I mean, when you say over and over and over again, like Cenk did on TYT, that you would never take money from corporations, and then you turn around and do it. That's the breaking of an implied contract with your viewers. Anyway, this is a little bit different. This is shouldn't the CFAR people be quoting us the dollar value of a vote? And that right there is so ambiguous, I don't know. But fortunately it gets into a little bit more detail. So revolt against plutocracy comes to our Progressive or Bust group, so I'm assuming he's a member of Progressive or Bust, peddling their CFAR candidate contracts, in reality a written pledge to support a raft of popular policies. So to keep campaign promises or a platform, right? That's what this is about. Now, I talked to a lot of people, I don't know how long ago, before Bernie, before 2015, probably back in 2014 sometime, about contracting candidates. So you tell people that you have a voter block and that they're all willing to vote for him as long as he'll sign a contract. And a bunch of people really like this idea, and they were Bernie type people. I mean, that's the only kind of people I would discuss this with. And it was before Bernie, but it was probably during the anti-Hillary time when I had Shillery, We the People, my group, We the People. It was called Shillery, the Scourge of the fake Democratic Party. And that's probably when I was talking to people about this. And obviously this group revolt against plutocracy, and in particular whoever it is that, here we'll go look at them.
For an American renewal. Renew or else. The contract, you can see below, is a contract agenda that has 11 items on it. You can have candidates sign it, but before you jump the gun and get involved and print out that contract and take it to a candidate, a Democrat, a Green, a People's Party candidate, any progressive candidate, before you do that, go to the tutorials tab and watch the videos there. You're going to need collaborators to make this work well. You could work up by yourself if you can't find a collaborator, but it's a lot easier if you find someone who has the skills you may not have. Maybe a salesperson. Maybe you could find a salesperson to ask the candidate. Watch the tutorials, particularly John's tutorial on the tutorials tab, and take his advice very seriously. This is
Okay, so basically these people are going to offer up the standard platform like the one that we have at Democratic Party headquarters, but is also a we borrowed it from what used to be the great TYT and is no more, but Justice Democrats. And I would bet you that it's going to be almost exactly the same. I mean, immediately I see $15 minimum wage, infrastructure, climate change. Yeah, I mean, this is ending the war in Afghanistan. I mean, it's pretty much all there. Pretty much the same platform. And I think that, generally speaking, most progressives, true progressives, have really got all the same ideas. Tuition-free colleges, overturning Citizens United. That means getting out of... okay, so anyway. I mean, we've beat the platform to death. So they have this idea to turn it into a contract. Because I told a lot of people really liked the idea on Facebook, and I said, I'm not going to do it. I can't even imagine how to start. So anyway, somebody here has taken it on. And what Patrick's trying to say is that he says, why destroy the image of honesty conveyed by this pledge by making the false and even absurd claim that it's a legally binding contract? Well, I discussed that with him. He didn't understand that any contract is legally binding as long as it meets certain qualifications or whatever you want to call them. We'll talk about that here in a minute. And he couldn't get that. He's trying to say that he's got this expert who tells him that you can't contract for a candidate, and he says there's a whole body of law. Well, there's a whole body of law called contract law too, and it's just got, I don't know, about 5 different things that you have to do for it to be a valid contract, and one of them is not that it not be political in any way. There's nothing that says that. And as I told him, okay, I mean, quite often in law, people get away with shit for a long time. I mean, look at all the cops who get off, even though they murdered people and things like that. Or at least, very least, manslaughter, right? You know, pulling up and within 2 seconds shooting a 12-year-old boy sitting on a bench with a toy gun. Give me a break. Anyway, so like I'm saying, it's possible that there are people out there. I don't think it's ever been done, so I don't see how they could be out there nullifying these contracts. So I don't think there's a contract that they could have nullified. So his expert is just probably a self-proclaimed expert, you know, one of those legend in his own mind. So he says, just consider the contractual element of consideration. The thing of monetary value one party offers in return for the other party's performance specified in the contract. Well, there is no monetary side to a contract trying to... all that the two parties are contracting to is performance in the office. So if he goes in and he doesn't vote the right way, as was agreed upon in the contract, like let's say he votes to be against like some kind of thing studying global warming, or having a department or funding of something, and that's plainly in his contract that he should support study of and anything green, right? Well, then he would be breaking his contract. I would think that there would be a option in there for him to make it right, like change his vote. But I don't know, man. Once these guys fuck you over, do you really want them to have a way out? I mean, the contracts that I discussed with people, a person would automatically have to resign if they did certain things, you know. So let's say one of the things in their contract is that they don't vote to invade Iran, okay? And they vote to invade Iran. Well, immediately there would have to be you would do it all internally. You wouldn't do it through the governmental system. The guy would have to resign, and he would there would have to be another vote, and another person who said he would keep the contract, who was willing to sign the contract, would have to be elected in, right? Because the whole point of this is that whoever holds the office, if they want to be elected, they have to get the votes, and this agreement is to get the votes, they have to sign a contract. So there's no consideration, there's no money exchanging hands. There's just you know, loyalty is all that's changing hands, not money. We're not giving them any money. This isn't part of fundraising or anything like that. So he says, if a political candidate is making the offer of his services, no, he's not making well, in a way, but it's the loyalty of those services that they the only conceivable item voters can offer as consideration is their votes. Now, in contract law, and this is my expertise, right? I took contract law in business school. The consideration offered, it's not a sale. It's an exchange of votes for, of an office for a certain performance. I mean, this is silly even, because it's like any other job, right? I mean, it is a job, and your boss is the people who voted you in. So if you take a job, you contract to do that job. This isn't like brain surgery or rocket science. So he doesn't get that, and he's going to say again here, so by we should be able to assign a monetary value to a vote. Well, that's a huge leap, and I'm not buying it. So I suggested this idea, and it is caught on apparently. It's an enforceable contract that has penalties if a candidate doesn't keep its campaign promises. And why shouldn't a candidate face legal repercussions for being a traitor to the people who voted for him or her? Patrick Walker says, but it's not an enforceable contract. But he doesn't say, I mean, the few reasons he gives don't make any sense. Under existing law, and has zero chance of becoming one. I hate lying politicians. Well, if you hate them, then why aren't you happy about the fact that we're trying to contract them, pin them down to make them do their jobs? But the best way to respond is clearly not to become liars ourselves. There ought to be a law is still and never will be the same as there is a law. See, nothing he's saying makes any sense. I mean, contract law is contract law. I say, well, I got a B+ in contract law, and the last time I checked, as long as a contract doesn't break a law, like contracting someone to commit a murder for you, anyone can or cannot enter into a contract that is enforceable upon breaking that contract. So what I'm asking is, are you trying to change the whole body of law? Because that will never happen. So a person seeking candidacy is free to enter or not enter into a contract with his party and voters, as far as I know. If he does, of course, enforcement of that contract is up to the courts, but for the most part, as far as I've seen, it will be enforced unless it is attempting to enforce or punish someone for something that is against the law, as in the example I gave above of murder. And he says a candidate is completely free under the law to make a pledge. No, this isn't a pledge. This is a contract. It may contain pledges of types of pledges, whatever, to voters, and falsely call it a legal binding contract. All of that is perfectly legal, though if done consciously, pretty sleazy ethically. But the point is, there's not a snowball's, well, you can't prove that there's not a snowball's chance in hell of a court enforcing that contract with voters, simply because it's not a valid contract. Where do you don't ever prove that in all this? See, this is a problem I have with people on Facebook. They love to make claims, but they never really just give all the rationale, or even some links, or some kind of proof. I mean, he doesn't ever quote any laws or anything that says that you can't, and if he's just saying that he thinks, and that his so-called legal expert thinks, that no court would enforce it, well, I beg to differ, because there's certain rules you have for enforcing a contract, and they're not, like I say, not one of them. So if there's any judge that has refused to uphold a contract as such, he's screwed up. He's broken the law. He's legislating from the bench, huh? So you're trying to say that there, of course, none of this is even happening because nobody's ever contracted a politician, and so it's never gone to court. I mean, this is all hypothetical, but as far as whether it is enforceable or not, I've got him, and you'll see as I explain. Maybe we're talking about two different things. I suggested many times over the years, and got a very positive response, that we should require candidates to run to sign a contract with their constituency, that they would, to the best of their ability, pursue the promises they made during the campaign, like voting for, say, legal abortion, etc. Such contracts would, of course, be perfectly legal, and I think you'll see that's pretty obvious after you read or listen to all this. And the fact that it involves politics, of course, would not make them illegal or unenforceable in any way. If you have been led to believe that by someone, then you are wrong, and they're wrong. So, for example, say part of a contract signed by the candidate was that as senator, they would not support sending troops into Syria. Then they voted to send troops into Syria, and assumed that the penalty was a $100,000 fine, and his removal and a new election to replace him. Now, I'm not going to argue with you about the details, as this is all hypothetical, but all this, generally speaking, is legal, and officers of the court would be required, so judges would be required to enforce the agreement. And he says, no, they wouldn't. And he says, because he's already on the ropes, obviously, the contract is not legally enforceable contract because it doesn't satisfy the legally necessary elements for one. Well, yes, it does. It's not illegal to make a legally invalid contract. It simply won't be enforced by any court. Well, no, it is illegal to make an invalid contract. I mean, there's nothing legal about making a contract that's, bullshit. But anyway, so it simply won't be enforced by any court. You clearly didn't read the expert legal opinion in the essay I posted, and I did. And I didn't find it any more compelling than what he has to say here. I posted, which explains in elaborate detail why the courts wouldn't enforce such a pseudo-contract. See, now he's trying to call it a pseudo-contract, so now he's just being kind of snotty, He's just trying to prove his point. Obviously, this guy is a wannabe legend in his own mind. Okay, so you might wish to start with legislative immunity, which forbids civil actions. That's not for somebody who's been contracted against legislators for action. Yes, I know about all the protections for politicians. That doesn't protect them from a contract they made with anybody else. That just is, if there is no contract, they're not allowed, then they're protected, and those protections are pretty bad anyway. I mean, trying to protect them from all these things that they do that are really screwing the people who voted for them. In this case, in the contract, you'd know exactly who the contract is with. You'd know exactly who voted for him and made it possible for him to get the office, and you know exactly who he is. So there is no question. I mean, there's a little bit of a question when you have a bunch of people getting upset because they don't like the way a certain candidate voted and trying to sue him or trying to nail him legally. That's a little bit different because you're not really talking about the people who voted him in. At least you don't know that they voted him in. They may claim they voted for him, but in this country there's something called the secret ballot, so nobody ever really knows who voted for who, which is stupid anyway, and I want to get rid of the secret ballot. So anyway, he says you might think about the question of improper subject matter. I mean, what the fuck is he talking about? Which means prospective legislators don't personally own the power that attach only to their offices and therefore don't have the right to make contracts concerning them. Where does he get this shit? This guy's a science fiction writer, creative writing here. He's saying these things, but he doesn't have any basis, and they don't really even make sense. Okay, so your expert can say whatever he wants. I still say you can't win or lose a case in court and go explicitly. Well, in this case it wasn't the UCC, so I'll edit that. And I'll say what contract law says. Although I don't know that the UCC doesn't cover contract law, but I don't think it does. I think the UCC covers tort law, and it may though. And then I say, and just because there's politics involved doesn't cut it. Not only is it crazy, but no one will get away with it for very long. If a party wants to require their candidate sign a contract to run for office as a member of that party, not only am I sure it is legal and enforceable, but I'm sure you have to sign some kind of contract to run as a member of a party already. Conversely, candidates don't have to sign oaths, etc., from organizations like the DNC and the RNC to run as a Republican or a Democrat. Okay, so anyway, let's see. So I post a thing saying where Donald Trump signs the pledge. Well, and these kind of things, like this pledge here that he makes to the GOP, as far as I know, it's enforceable as a contract. I mean, Bernie, I don't know whether he wanted to or not, but he made a deal with the DNC to support, to not run as an independent, just like this, and to support. So they both did it. We only found out what happened afterwards when, in Bernie's case, because he lost. And we know that he did back Hillary, and to all of our dismay, right? Okay, so, you know, Patrick is going to go on doing his little dance here, saying he cited evidence from a legal expert, but he didn't ever actually point out a law, or like here, what I do. Did you ever even take a class in a top 10 business school on contract law? Did you have to study your ass off? The class was ridiculously difficult compared to any of my other classes. I think I know what I'm talking about. If you don't, then go take the class. Maybe this will help. Your so-called experts are just guys on the internet and their opinion. Well, my experts are the people who wrote the laws that govern contracts, and they determine what is a valid, enforceable contract, not your so-called experts. And I send him here. Okay, so so this talks about the contract process here and the procedure, and you go through a lot of negotiation, execution, responsibility, authority, management. Okay, that's just about the process. But now the legal elements are all here. He talks about consideration. Well, here's what consideration helps distinguish a legally binding contract from a mere unenforceable promise. Consideration exists when each party to a contract gives up something of legal value. Typically, this involves doing something that the party is not otherwise required to do, or agreeing not to do something that the party could do. In the example above, the college does not have an obligation to pay Van Gogh any money. Van Gogh does not have to paint the Wren building. When the college agrees to pay, well, anyway, that's some example that's up here somewhere. It says the college will pay $1,000 for Vincent Van Gogh to paint the Wren building, or I, Vincent Van Gogh, will paint the Wren building if the college pays me $1,000. So anyway, consideration, that doesn't have anything to do with politics, you know, that it be in writing, not necessarily in order. Okay, so anyway, if you go through all this, you can go look at it yourself, and I would suggest also reading the whole thing. You'll find out that there's nothing in here that says a contract isn't legally binding just because it's between a politician and his constituency. So I go on to say, if you think you can just puke up some doc off the net and make it so, well, I see conservatives and Republicans make up their own official looking crap all the time and then post it in some PDF and fool people into believing it's some message from God. I see them do that shit all the time, especially with global warming and stuff. So again, we're right back where we began. A contract, whether political or otherwise, between two parties is enforceable unless it requires one of the parties to do something illegal. And the other things that are in that link that I posted. Let's see what this one. So this one's a link I post, and so here's another link. You're welcome to go look at it, and it just kind of does the whole thing over again, same kind of stuff. It explains what is and isn't. Okay, so I quoted the UCV, the Universal Commercial Code, but it's actually 41 USC. So there's a bunch of American law that affects contract law. And I'm sure there's people who've tried to say you can't do it with a politician. But you know, really, fuck them. We'll just get a good lawyer if they say that, and we'll get it changed. Because it makes sense. It makes sense to want to contract your politician. Only because we all know that they lie their fucking asses off. And then when they get in, they cheat you out of your vote. So we know not only is it legal, but or it would be legal if we ever did it, but it's also a great idea. And that's why those people took me up on my idea. That's why when they heard it, they went, man, this is, I mean, I don't remember exactly, it was a long time ago, but I remember a girl just like, this is a really great idea. I don't know why I didn't think of it. Or she didn't say, I don't know why I didn't think of it. But you know, she said she loved it, and why hasn't it already happened? So I said, well, just nobody's tried to do it. Well, Revolt Against Plutocracy is trying to do it. And so Patrick, in his final comment, says, if you'll note, two of these elements of contract, which you were quite correct and logical to bring up, cause huge problems. As both I and the expert lawyer noted, there are enormous difficulties, including possible outright illegality. So now he's vacillating, which is good. He ought to be able to understand what I said, and he ought to be able to go read right there what. So in treating votes as consideration, well, we're not treating votes as consideration. We're treating votes as we're not accepting any money. There's no money involved. So, and of course there's consideration. These people that are voting, they want their will to correlate with the activities of the guy who they're voting in. So putting a dollar amount now, there's no dollar amount. It doesn't suggest that they're for sale, which is illegal. That's bullshit. I mean, paying somebody for their vote, that's illegal. I mean, you're trying to take that and stretch that into something completely different that doesn't even apply to this idea of contracting your politician. And he says the law forbids civil suits against elected officials, yes, but not for this. It's just making like what they're protected against, and it's not right. It's not right. But they're protected, like, say that they vote against climate change. Okay, and then say climate change, it's proved, kills millions of people. And so somebody somewhere files a lawsuit against them because what they did caused the death of millions of people. Well, you'd probably be better off to go get a lynch mob, because you're never going to get a court to go against this politician. But that's not the same thing as enforcing a contract that they made. If you made a contract with them, first of all, you wouldn't be going after, well, in the example I set, you know, the fine. would be. So there would be some financial. But we're talking about throwing, I mean, maybe even putting to death a politician. Yeah, and that's illegal now. And I say it shouldn't be. Because, you know, fuck them if they go and do something. Fuck them if they take away Medicaid for millions of people and thousands of them die. And then you tell me that I can't take them to court? So, you know, isn't there enough unfairness in this world? But anyway, that's a different subject, and he doesn't get that. He doesn't get that that's not applicable here. There's no law that says I can't hold a politician to a contract over my vote and millions of other people's votes. Okay, so that doesn't make any sense. Well, I think I already said that, right? So I'm just saying it again. So let's see. And another problem I mentioned, improper subject matter may count as an issue of capacity. A private person doesn't own the powers that result from being elected to public office. I don't know that owning them has anything to do with anything. So they aren't his or hers. No. So, and he's saying all of these things that he's brought up seem important to him. They do. But in the realm of the argument we're having right here, they really aren't that important. As a matter of fact, most of them are completely inapplicable and don't have anything to do with whether the contract I'm talking about would be legally enforceable. And so, in response, I say I think it's incorrect to consider this an issue of putting a dollar value on a vote. I don't see where that's even happening. The contracts I'm talking about are, as far as I can tell, RAP, which is Revolt Against Plutocracy, is talking about. And again, I gave these people the idea. I'm sure they got the idea. I mean, this all happened way after I brought it up, and I think I may even have a group or a page that's all about contracting our politicians, or a contract between the candidate and the voters who vote for him to bind him to make the votes and do the politicking he has agreed to do in the contract. What amazes me, and has always amazed me, is that one would have to bind a candidate to such a contract. I mean, what kind of scumbag runs for office to represent people but secretly is arranged to represent their enemies? Who does that? Oh yeah, the establishment Democrats, Dems like Hillary Clinton, are defined by such behavior. It's treasonous and despicable. But really, without the contract, what good is it? I mean, if you're not going to get people to, and that's what's wrong with America and the world, right? Human nature, is you can't get anybody to, even the purest, greatest ideas and the greatest, strongest organizations can't get everybody to back them. All the people, even though they agree with the group, the organization, whatever, can't get them to back them. Can't get them to sign up. But everybody's so, and isn't that the result of hundreds of years of propagandization? I mean, haven't we been taught to be afraid of anything, no matter how much we think we probably should trust it or believe in it? So my final word is break the chains, people. You know, break the fucking chains. Join this group. Join, you know, sign the contract. Join Democratic Party headquarters. Be a part of it. Pledge your support. Whatever level you can bring yourself to. Do it. Do it. You know that we're right. If you don't know that you can trust me, well, I'm telling you. And I know that's not worth anything, but I'm telling you. You know, I'm not going to take your money. I don't even have a place for people to donate money. Even though I've got this show and you know, the candidates, you can go, Democratic Party headquarter candidates, you can go, I'm sure they've got a place in there, in the posts that we make. Sorry, it's like 5 o'clock in the morning, or 6 maybe, but you can go donate there to them, but you can't donate to me, and I don't need your money. I mean, I'm not rich, but I'm not starving anyway, and I don't care about speedboats, and I mean, you can see a lot of the stuff came from when I was working, but I still managed to get stuff like this monitor and this computer I got last year. I still manage to make enough money, just enough to get the things I need. And I'm more or less retired, and I've more or less got my way worked out. So I'm not like desperate. And if I was, I probably wouldn't even be able to make this show, because you do need a certain amount of infrastructure. So I don't care about money the way other people might. I mean, some people are just greedy, right? Even people like me. Some of us are very greedy. So you can trust me. I'm not going to take your money. I'm not going to ever ask you for your money. If I ever do, I'll give a full explanation of exactly where it's going, and it won't include me. It'll go to somebody else, somebody who I'm raising money for, right? And I assure you, I will, if I ever raise money for somebody else and you ever decide you want to invest in it, I will put a big thing saying exactly where that money's going and how it's going to be spent, and I will do my best, of course, to make sure it does get spent there, and if somehow it's not getting spent there, then I'll put an end to it, and I'll rail against whoever screwed us. But anyway, so people need to get behind these, and they need to just do a little bit. I mean, Americans are lazy. Do a little bit of homework, find out, and you know, if the reason that you're not willing to join or give or whatever is because you don't know enough about them, well then fucking get off your ass and go find out about them. You know, so that you can, and not all, I shouldn't say that Americans are lazy. I mean, look at all the millions of people who donated to Bernie. So, I mean, there's people out there. So there are people out there who are willing to commit. But, you know, it's easy to, if you got money, it's easy to write out a check or fill out a thing online saying you'll give $25 or whatever. That's not really a lot of work. And I suppose it's kind of an easy way out of actually having to do like I did for Obama and a few other candidates, more progressive candidates. But back in 2008 and 2012, I got out there, and I still do. I'm in charge of 2 districts, but I'm leaving the other one behind. But this district that I'm in, I get out there. I print up flyers full of articles and information, with web pages and stuff that they can go to, and where I am on Facebook, how they can get in contact with me. I do that, and I drop them at people's houses. I feel a little weird about face-to-face trying to, like, I could go around and everybody I talk to, I could say, vote for Bernie Sanders. I mean, I'll do that door to door, but I feel a little weird, because, I mean, they're my neighbors, right? So I don't really push it that way, because I don't think that's right. But, we're going to have to get boots on the ground if we're going to start winning these things. There's going to have to be somebody in every neighborhood, every 100 houses or 200 houses, a person who's going to them and promoting us and getting our ideas through to, because all these voters are hiding, in their little houses. They're hiding in the ghettos, and they're hiding in all the little towns out there. We're going to have to get people in every single place where there are people, American citizens. We're going to have to get them on the ground, door to door, talking to people. Otherwise, why would they vote for us if they don't know? If they get online and all they see is Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, if they get on their TV and all they see is Hillary Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Hillary Clinton, then how are we? And we're not going to get the mainstream media to back us. They will mention us in a kind of haphazardly way, so as to imply that we're a waste of time and just a fad. They'll do to us what they did to Bernie for a long time, until Bernie finally cut a deal with them and they felt less intimidated by Bernie. They'll just placate us with a little tiny bit of coverage, while in reality, the real world, where we don't see the real world, their massive television and radio and internet, and they'll wipe us out. So we need something that they don't control, and that is boots on the ground. And so I may raise money and pay people, because it's not fair to ask people to walk their feet off. I mean, here we'll turn trillions of dollars over to the media, but do we spend $1 million on boots on the ground? No, the Democratic Party has always depended on these, volunteers. Well, fuck volunteers, man. Let's raise, where did all that money that Bernie had go? Bernie raised 50 mil, or I don't know how many billions or whatever. How much of that went to boots on the ground? None. I never saw anybody in any, except for me. And I didn't do volunteer work for Bernie. I mean, I did, but it was on the internet and stuff, and I did the phone calling. But nobody got off their asses. Nobody bought laser printers like I do and printed out stuff and took it door to door. Everybody's too fucking McAmerica, huh? McDonald's America. Fast and easy. Well, guess what? You pay people and they will do it. So I am going to raise money to pay people. We'll pay them that $15 minimum wage we all brag about. How about that? So I will raise money to pay people $15 an hour, and we'll just contract them so they can pay their taxes on it if they want to. At this point, I don't know that I would want to pay my taxes, because there's no point. The government isn't spending money on anything that I want my money spent on. But anyway, none of these people are going to make over $15,000 a year, which is, well, the poverty line is probably higher than that now because of inflation. But anyway, I'll pay these people. I'll raise the money. I'll only pay me if I go out there and walk and deliver leaflets. I'll pay myself the same $15 an hour everybody else makes. But if we don't find a way to get around the mainstream media, the propaganda machine, we're not going to win. So, and obviously I didn't just come up with this off the top of my head. I've been thinking about this for a long time. Okay, how do we do this, right? I mean, how do we get people information? Because all we have to do is tell them the truth. All we have to do is spread the truth around. And, these people, if we can get people, pay people in every area, we can send them the flyers, send them a big box of flyers, and we can pay one person to make sure all the rest of them are actually going out and delivering them. Obviously, this is going to take a business point of view, and we're going to have to do it to make sure it gets done. I mean, otherwise you end up with with what happened with Acorn, where Acorn's crime wasn't what they were attacked for. Their real crime was that they'd pay people, and then you'd find all their little flyers and stuff for trying to get people to register as Democrats, and boy, that really worked out, right? Anyway, you'd find thousands of them in the garbage can. People would get paid, I'm assuming, and so obviously you'd have to make sure that the flyers actually got delivered, which means that you'd have to have somebody who's not actually delivering them monitor, and people obviously wouldn't get paid if they didn't really deliver the flyers. And whatever, talk to people, all the things that you think of when you think of stumping for a politician. And obviously we would try and get the politicians, if they raised money, maybe they would see the efficacy of investing their donations into these people on the ground. And what a great campaign to be able to say, look at me, I'm paying people $15 an hour to promote the revolution. Doesn't that sound great? Wouldn't that be a great promotion for your candidacy? And wouldn't it be a great promotion for the party? Obviously the real party, not the fake one, the one that everybody registers for at the DMV. So anyway, we've talked a long time about this, and I think we've covered a lot of territory, or I have. You're welcome to comment on my posts. But that's good, right? I mean, we covered a lot of good things right now.
Walmart's opposition to unions was led for decades by labor lawyer John Tate, who after his retirement proudly recalled at this company meeting in 2004 what he said was his favorite phrase.
Labor unions are nothing but blood-sucking parasites living off of the productive labor of people who work for a living.
Hillary Clinton was not present at this Walmart meeting, but Tate was relied on for years to keep unions out at Walmart, including during the 6 years from 1986 to 92, when Clinton was on the Walmart board and Tate was either an executive or a member of the board himself.
There were over 60,000 in total sent and received. About half were work-related and went to the State Department, and about half were personal that were not in any way related to my work.
When you speak to the public, you say, I turned over everything. That's, for the most part, a direct quote. When you talk to the public, you say, I turned over everything.
90 to 95% of my work-related emails were in the state system. If they wanted to see them, they would certainly have been able to do so. You know what?
That is maybe the 10th time you have cited that figure today.
It is.
And I have not heard anyone other than you ever cite that figure. Who told you that 90 to 95% of your emails were in the State Department system? Who told you that?
We learned that from the State Department in their analysis of the emails that were already on the system.
The Inspector General report found that less than 1% of State Department emails, record emails, were captured. So they give a number of less than 1%, and you give a number of 90%.
Interest in Libya in 2012.
The server contains personal communications from my husband and me.
Only time I got on the internet, I did 2 emails, and I ordered Christmas presents from a reservation. Otherwise, I found people said embarrassing things on emails. I didn't want to be one of them.
I mean, and how many angels dance on the head of a pin? I have really nothing to. I mean, how do you answer? Represented Wall Street as a senator from New York, and I went to Wall Street in December of 2007 before the big crash that we had, and I basically said, cut it out. Quit foreclosing on homes. Quit engaging in these kinds of speculative behaviors. Now, who's exactly to blame for the housing crisis? I think there's plenty of blame to go around. Home buyers who paid extra fees to avoid documenting their income should have known they were getting in over their heads. Of course we have to deal with the problem that the banks are still too big to fail. We can never let the American taxpayer and middle-class families ever have to bail out the kind of speculative behavior that we saw. But we also have to worry about some of the other players. AIG, a big insurance company, Lehman Brothers, an investment bank. There's this whole area called shadow banking. That's where the experts tell me the next potential problem could come from. So I'm with
both Senator Sanders and Governor O'Malley in putting a lot of attention. I represented New York, and I represented New York on 9/11. When we were attacked, where were we attacked? We were attacked in downtown Manhattan, where Wall Street is. I did spend a whole lot of time and effort helping them rebuild. That was good for New York, it was good for the economy, and it was a way to rebuke the terrorists who had attacked our country.
9/11 was bad.